Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the screen here. Okay. There we go. Okay. Good to see everybody. Another beautiful day in sunny Tucson, Arizona. Okay. Mike, if you'd lead us in the motto, please.
Good morning. Thank you. Sashi Puki Jukshin Mektok Chom Rira Bling Shin Inde Gimpadi Sange Shindu Mikte Wargi Jokun Namdak Shinra Drupar Sho Idam Guru Radna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
I go for refuge to the Buddha. Hang on a minute. I'm spacing out. I go for refuge to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay, let's see. Going to do some rejoicing, and as usual, I'll start from the left, top left corner of my screen, and today that's Katerina. Katerina, what do you have to rejoice in today?
Hello everyone, I speak Russian. Я радуюсь, что
I'm rejoicing today that we have could investigate emptiness. We tried to do a debate. There was a question about one girl. She had the question about empty space. And we were investigating this. We were chatting through the during the day. We're trying to do debate. We read materials.
I didn't catch the first part of that. My interpretation wasn't on.
Yes, Ekaterina is rejoicing about that they were trying to create some debate about emptiness. There was one girl who had a question about empty space, and they were chatting during the day and trying to create a debate about this topic, and they read materials to investigate this issue.
What did you decide?
We didn't come to the joint position. I remember that empty space relates to absolute ultimate,
вещам,
where
которые
also there
существуют
is
и не
emptiness,
измеряются.
which exist and can measured.
Но она считает, что оно относится
But
не
she
к
thinks
абсолютной,
that
а
it
обманчивой
relates not to
реальности.
ultimate, not to
Но
absolute,
мы
but
не смогли
to
доказать
deceptive
ни свою
reality.
позицию, ни
But we
позицию
couldn't prove
пока.
our position. Not I couldn't prove my position, and neither she couldn't prove her position.
Well, that's interesting. Let me write that down. So what's the question you were asking? Maybe I can answer that straight up. So in debate, you have something you want to prove. What were you trying to prove, Katerina?
Относится ли пустое пространство
Does empty space relate to
абсолютной
ultimate
реальности?
reality?
Oh, well, that's an interesting.
The
I wouldn't have put those two together. Okay, let me write it down here. Does empty space relate to reality? Say it again. Does empty space
relate to ultimate reality?
relate to ultimate reality? I have to think about that. I never thought about it before. Okay, I'll think about that, and I'll have an answer for you Thursday, maybe, if my brain doesn't blow up. Okay, next is Daria. Daria, what do you have to rejoice about?
Good morning, Venerable Sumati. I rejoice. Today I saw three people. It was kids, and I said, "Oh, I remembered about three jewels. It's three people: Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, and what about what else? Okay, I remember 3 points in poisons, my poisons. When I forgot three jewels, forgot my ignorance, and I forgot about emptiness. And I was very happy. I remembered about this.
Okay. Well, good. Okay, who's next? Anna, are you rejoicing or are you just Englishing?
Hello, dear Venerable Sumati. Hello, everyone. About my rejoicing, I am rejoicing that I helped my mom in some her housekeeping problems, and her mood started to be better. She's happy, and I am happy also that she is happy. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, don't forget, all that's coming from your projection. So if you want to continue to see her happy, you need to be sure to make others happy. So very good. Okay, Mike, you're next.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you. I wanted to rejoice that so I had already finished this class before I took my Bodhisattva vows. So I'm kind of like auditing. But I did I skipped ACI 4 when we went through it. I attended the classes, but I didn't do any of the homeworks. Right. So I've been trying to catch up. I know. And I came to every class. Like, why not just
Do
do
the
that?
homework right after class.
Like, so I didn't do that. And but I've been catching up, and I finished class 9 and 10 um, on over the weekend, and then I went to the final, and I was going to start studying, and I said, let me just try to go through the final, and it was fine. It was no problem,
Oh,
and
very
I just
good.
went right through the final, and there was a couple questions that I had to go back and kind of study a little bit, but I was just seeing that as um I was just seeing the kind of the fruits of my studies and the time that I'm putting into it, and I dedicate that to, I just hope that everybody can see their progress, and that, you know, compared to where I was, you know, 5 years ago, I'm a different person. So
Oh, very good. Excellent. Now, what does that teach you? Do your homeworks right after class. But very good. Well, I'm proud of you. To be able to go through the final and be able to hit most of the questions is the whole point. Okay. Next is Katya.
Hi, hello, everybody. Well, my rejoice is that I was having a conversation with some friends, and the conversation was like kind of sarcasm,
Uh-huh.
with a lot of sarcasm. And I was going to do the same, but I thought is my karma so? And I stopped like doing that kind of conversations. And I am happy about that because I enjoy sometimes the sarcasm. So, but I stop it.
Well, that's really good. I'm glad you caught yourself and it was your karma so. That's really I'm really proud of you. That's wonderful. Sarcasm sarcasm has a point, but when you say it to hurt someone, then that's wrong. But you can say sarcasm to bring a point across teaching, uh, and it's okay to use it. But if you're just one of my brother-in-laws, who's my age, Susan Sarani's brother, my age, has a really dry wit, and he's very sarcastic, and that can get old. But sometimes the sarcasm is exactly what's needed. So you have to put it in context. So good, very good. What was the sarcasm about?
Like not important things.
Okay. Evgeny, what do you have to rejoice about?
Evgeny is just recording, and
Okay.
Tatiana
Tatiana.
she shared her rejoicing in the chat, asking to translate. Tatiana is rejoicing that will be volunteer in the project of Lapsang Kandrin about a health issue.
Oh, good, good. Okay, something I need to make sure you all know about. I got an email from Ale about Geshe Michael will be teaching the Diamond Way come 2026. But to get into the class, you need to have completed the 4 Lam Rim teachings he's giving this year. So I'm very excited for all of you that he's going to do this. It is a lot of work. Do not kid yourself. You have to do the homeworks and quizzes. You have to keep up with the massive amount of reading. I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but I'm making sure you realize this isn't something you can do and I'll get to it. You have to really, to get the most out of it, you have to really pay attention and focus and do what's asked. So I encourage any and all of you, if you're interested in it, the first commitment class is over the 17th to the 27th of April. So since really, this is a rare opportunity. I didn't think he would teach it again. It was exhausting for him and for Lama Christie back in the early part of this Oh, I get to say it. The early part of this century. Oh, that's the first time I've said that. Huh. Early part of this century. Anyway, so I share that with you. If you want more information, Svetlana, do you have basically the email that Ali sent out? Could you forward that to the group here?
Yeah, Lamas already shared, and it was widespread in the chats.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. Well, she's on top of it. Okay. Well, if there are any questions about that, I'll try to answer them as best I can. Okay. Now we're on to the secondary vows, 17 through 28. Now, one thing you'll notice with the vows, Geshe Michael has broken them down into the parts. So, well, I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so number 17, secondary vow number 17. In answer to being yelled at, you yell back. If you don't yell back, you follow the first of the 4 points of virtue. But before we get to the 4 points of virtue, why don't you want to yell back? If in answer to being yelled at, you yell back, what's wrong with yelling back? This isn't a trick question. I'm curious. No, you all have your hands up at once. I can't decide who to call on. That's sarcasm. That's a good sarcasm. If you don't want to ever be yelled at again in your life and in future lives, don't yell back. Yelling usually denotes anger, and you don't want to get angry at anybody. So, in answer to being yelled at, you yell back. Now, I haven't had a email in a long time with all capitals, but that's shouting as I understand email etiquette. So again, you can yell in an email, which would be wrong. Okay, I talked about if you don't yell back, you follow the first of the 4 points of virtue. 4 points of the practice of virtue. Someone yells at you and you don't respond. It's difficult not to respond in kind. If you're getting yelled at, the habitual reaction is to reply in kind. But the whole idea here is we're trying to break these harmful habits. Someone has gotten angry at you and put you down, and you don't respond in kind. So, someone gets angry at you, you don't respond and get angry at them and say terrible things about them. That's the second point of virtue. Someone hits you and you don't respond. Number 4, someone points out your fault and dirt on you and you don't respond in kind. So these are the 4 points of virtue. If you don't if you get yelled at and you don't respond, you don't yell back. If someone gets angry at you and says terrible things about you and you don't respond in kind, if someone hits you and you don't respond in kind, and if someone points out your faults and dirt on you, you don't respond in kind, you've upheld the 4 points of virtue. Number 18, just ignoring people who are angry because of something you did and something that they think you did to harm them. If they're angry at you, you must go to them and apologize or explain that you didn't try to harm them so they don't fester in their anger. You must clear the air. One usually doesn't do this because of pride, laziness, jealousy, hatred, or just thinking you're right. So I have a story, as you might expect. Let's see, how do I want to? Trying to think how I want to turn this story into something useful. Now, I have several stories with the clumps. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to use. Oh, okay. So there's a particular bend in the road at Diamond Mountain. You get down into the wash. Do you all know what I mean when I say wash? Walking in a wash. We have a lot of dry riverbeds, creeks in Arizona, and they're called washes. And there's where water flows in the winter sometimes, but they're just called washes. So the road at Diamond Mountain at a certain point is in this large wash. And there's a blind corner. You can't see around the corner. So when you're driving, you have to slow down. And one of these, the rancher that has access to our property from a long time ago to run his cattle was repairing a water line. And he had a backhoe in such a way that if you came screaming around the corner in your car, which many of the people at Diamond Mountain do, you could smack into it and have an accident. So I drove up and saw it, and I got out and asked him why he hadn't told me. I thought politely why he hadn't told me he was going to be doing the work so I could warn people. And he got very angry and started calling me all kinds of names and who the hell did I think I was. And instead of getting angry, I let him vent. And then I said, all I'm asking is for the safety of you and everybody else, I just needed to know you're going to be working here. So I could have taken him yelling at me personally and gotten upset and yelled back, but I didn't. So I went up to do what I needed to do, and I came back, and he offered me a job, which was completely out of left field. But by not getting angry at him, I wasn't even angry mentally and suppressing it. By not getting angry at him, I upheld this point of virtue. So, oh, I know it's something else I thought of today that I wanted to share with you. We talk about apologies and accepting an apology or apologizing to somebody else. And so you don't say, if a true apology doesn't say, you don't say, I apologize, but I'm sorry I got you upset. No, you apologize. That I got you upset. I apologize if that caused a problem. It's I apologize that it caused a problem. If you're going to apologize to somebody, you need to apologize completely and not have a caveat that if I say I apologize, but then I'm basically saying you're wrong and I'm right. I'm apologizing because I'm right and you're wrong. It's an apology is just simply I apologize. So why'd that pop into my head right now? I was thinking about that yesterday and how it's a subtle difference. See, to me, there's a lot of subtlety in Buddhism. And as Katya related, Yeah, she's involved in some sarcastic conversation. If she wants that to continue in her life, then join the conversation. But it's your karma ripening to see it. So it's her karma. So she didn't want that to happen in her life in the future. So it's these little words. And I like to play with the words, trying to make the point ever more subtly. So that's why when I talk about apologies, it's not, you don't apologize, but if, etc. It's I apologize to that, and you take full responsibility. Okay. So just ignoring people who are angry because of something you did to them or something they think you did to them. There are exceptions to this. You can ignore someone to teach them a lesson. No, this is a good place to bring up this point. Um, I don't know how many times you've come up to someone in a conversation waiting for them to finish the conversation so you can ask them a question. And they just keep talking and they don't recognize your presence. Well, that really bugs me. So I try very hard. If I'm talking to Katya and Svetlana comes up, I would turn to Svetlana and say, I'll be with you in a minute. I've recognized that she's there. She knows, I know she's there. And I haven't stopped my conversation with Katya because I'm in conversation with her. I do that because that's the courtesy I would like to have seen. I'd like to see when I ask a question of someone. So seems to be a trivial point, but when you stop and think about it, it's courtesy. And that's what all this is really about, treating others the way you want to be treated. So ignoring someone, this would be a point where you wouldn't want to ignore a person. If you need to discredit a wrong spiritual teaching, you can, I'm not sure how that relates to ignoring them. If someone would get more angry if you brought it up again, now that's a good point. You have to be careful when you bring up something that was an altercation between you. You don't want to bring it up again and get them mad again. So just ignoring people who are angry because of something you did or something they think you did. I don't really think that. I think one of the most insulting things that can happen to me is being ignored by somebody. I just think you don't have to say, oh, Sumati, it's so glad to see you. But you don't want to just pretend I'm not there either. So think how that makes you feel. And again, you're trying to do things to make people feel better and be happy. So don't ignore anybody. Number 19, not accepting an apology. For example, you don't feel like accepting an apology or feel superior. The exception is to teach a lesson. Apology received is insincere or disrespectful. Trying to think of an example here. No, I can't. Okay, number 20. To let thoughts of anger go on. Not consider, there are three parts to this. Not to consider it wrong to be angry, not to try to counteract the anger, and to let it flow and enjoy the anger. These three thoughts would allow you to let anger to go on, seeing it become righteous anger. They deserve my anger. As a bodhisattva, there's no such thing as a good, righteous anger. It will always bring a negative result. What is wrath versus anger? We have a vow later on to be wrathful if it's necessary to get a point across. To let thoughts of anger go on. The reason for this, I believe, is if you think you've been wronged and you think about it and think about it, you convince yourself more and more that you were wrong and they were right. And what I've tried very hard to do since I've been involved with Buddhist studies is if I find I'm mad at somebody, first of all, I stop and I say to myself, where's that coming from? From me. It's my projection. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't excuse it. It simply states to me, I state to myself, that's coming from me. That's my projection. I own responsibility for it. And so if I get angry, continue to get angry, I'm just going to see that kind of anger in my life. So I don't want to see that. So it's not that you can't get mad or upset, but get upset at yourself because of something you did in the past. Don't get upset at the other person and blame them. And you might be saying to yourself now, well, I don't do that. Well, I'd be willing to bet you do. I still do. Well, kind of. I don't get angry. Well, I get angry at myself. That's actually causing me some concern now. I'm getting more frustrated at myself. And I get angry at myself. And that's getting angry at a bodhisattva, and that's not a good thing. Okay. So don't let thoughts of anger go on. Every time you resist anger a little bit longer, it becomes a habit not to succumb to anger at all. Anger at yourself as regret about past deeds is a virtue, and it's only the negative state. It is the only negative state that is a virtue. The only way to stop anger completely is to see emptiness directly. So anger at yourself as regret about past deeds is a virtue and is the only negative state that is a virtue. One of the hardest things as a Buddhist to do is accept bad things happening as being your fault and not someone else's. So again, getting angry at yourself is kind of pointless. Okay. And vows 21 through 23 are against the perfection of joyous effort. To gather a group of students because you are attached to gain or admiration. If students take good care of you, but it's not the reason you are gathering them, then you don't break the vow. So to gather a group of students because you're attached to gain or admiration. It was kind of funny at early on at Diamond Mountain in the Tantra courses, we were encouraged to gather students, and my wife and I didn't gather very many at all. And we thought for a while we were doing something wrong. And we just realized that the students that were meant for us to help just hadn't appeared at Diamond Mountain yet. We didn't have the karma to be projecting them. We weren't jealous of others, but it was pretty weird to be the only two students that didn't have a bunch of students gathering around them during before and after class. That's not the case now. We have lots of wonderful students. Okay. Number 22, not trying to stop your laziness. Now, this is an interesting topic that I think many people, many students get confused about. Not trying to stop your laziness. This doesn't mean you can't rest or relax. It does mean you can't become a lethargic slug. So don't give in to habitually wasting time or putting things off. Allowing yourself not to make efforts for no other reason than you just don't feel like it. You can take time to rest and relax, but then get going again. So this is an example to me of what I call Dharma maturity. Dharma maturity, immaturity would say, I've got to work till I can't work anymore because I've got so much Dharma to spread. Dharma maturity says, I need to take care of myself so that I can teach usefully and do projects positively and carefully. So does that mean I can watch back episodes of Star Trek? If I want to relax, sure. But that means don't find yourself, you're using excuses to relax instead of working on a Dharma project. I have a project right now that I'm working on with, I don't know how many of you know Joanna from Germany. Wonderful lady, very, very good student. Very proud of her for everything she's done for me and for us. Her husband works with visual, what do they call it? Where you wear those goggles, virtual reality. And he wants to make a virtual reality program for the source of all my good. And that's going to be cosmic, but he needs some input from me, and I'm just reluctant to do it. I don't know why. So yesterday I talked with him, and I planned to do it yesterday evening and put it off. So today, after class, I'm going to sit down. It's a new program, I have to understand. And we need to go through each room and critique what he has there. So it's going to be quite frustrating, but it's what he's done so far is remarkable. So that's an example of laziness for me because I had other things I wanted to do. So, okay. Number 23, engaging in frivolous talk out of desire. Meaning, and do you enjoy doing it? If it's a point of information, find out about it quickly and succinctly and leave it alone. Most of what we read in magazines and newspapers is worthless, not the full information, just trying to sell you something. I don't know if I shared this before, but at one point in my life, I was watching the 6:30 in the morning news, the 5 in the afternoon local news, the 5:30 national news. Now I'm up to 4 times I'm listening to the news. Then I'm listening to the news at like 11 p.m. before I go to bed. Nothing changed in those 5 half-hour slots I was watching the news. It was a waste of my time. It seemed like I was doing something positive, but that was an example of wasting my time. I had 3 newspapers I read. It used to be, back in the day, that at the turn of the century, I like saying that, the turn of the century, I could believe, when I listened to the news, I could believe what was being said because there wasn't this fake news concept yet. And now, when I listen to the news or read something, I'm not sure if it's something somebody's just making up. And the reason for that is places like CNN. I don't know how much you use CNN, but there are some ads on CNN, some stories on CNN that are just totally bogus. They talk about this idiotic looking aircraft that follows the president wherever he goes. There is no such thing, but it's an ad, it's a story on CNN's website, which, because it's on their website, implies that it's true. But it couldn't be more. And the aircraft they show a picture of can't fly, but it's there. So I've decided I'm gonna try and find. I think there's something called Substack I've heard about that I'm gonna look into and see if that's something I can count on for honest reporting of factual information. It worries me because we rely on information, news, and so much of what's on the internet now is just crap, to put it mildly. Anyway, so we don't engage in frivolous talk. You make your point, you finish, you move on. Don't spend a lot of time on things outside your spiritual practice. Okay, vows 24 through 26 are against the practice of the perfection of concentration. Failing to seek the meaning of single-pointed concentration. Someone is teaching it, you don't go because you're lazy or proud. The exceptions, you don't think they're teaching it correctly. You're already a master. You're sick. Or you have other commitments. Number 25, failing to remove obstacles in meditation. I have the obstacle of meditation, and my medication makes me fall asleep when I close my eyes, and my tremor keeps it very hard for me to concentrate. I'm working on these, but I'm not having much luck, but I'm going to keep trying. '26. To consider the pleasant feeling of meditation an important personal attainment in and of itself. The pleasant feeling of meditation is a side effect on the path, another pleasure which will turn to suffering. The good feelings aren't a goal, and if we consider them an attainment, we won't try any harder. 27 through 34 are against the perfection of wisdom. 27, to reject Hinayana by saying the Bodhisattvas shouldn't study, listen to, learn, or follow the Hinayana teachings. The Pratimoksha vows, the freedom vows, are Hinayana. The root vows on this is broken when we reject the whole system as not being able to take us to nirvana. This vow is when you say that bodhisattvas don't need a Hinayana background. It's ridiculous. The good Mahayana Buddhist spends years studying the Hinayana tradition. At the monastery, they spend 10 years on the Abhidhamma Kosha to set an excellent foundation for Mahayana practice. As we talked about in the Source of All My Good with the bonsai tree and the hexagon in the Bodhisattva room. Your tantric vows are rely on the Bodhisattva vows, which rely on the Pratimoksha vows, which rely on the 10 non-virtues, the 10 virtues, which rely on your refuge commitments. So for anybody to say the Hinayana practice you don't need to do anymore because you're Bodhisattva is wrong. Now we do have a vow not to study the Hinayana tradition without seeing how you study the Hinayana tradition to help understand the Mahayana tradition. So to say the Hinayana tradition is not necessary or to disparage it is a powerfully stupid thing to do. To devote number 28, to devote yourself to Hinayana at the expense of your Mahayana practices. That's pretty clear. I was in South Africa and I picked up a book. I was in a temple where we were teaching, and I picked up a book from the Chan tradition, Chan, and it was discussing karma. And it was very comforting reading because it was basically saying there's some things that aren't karma. They just are. And I remember thinking, well, that makes more sense. And then I got back, I hadn't taken the Bodhisattva vows yet. When I got back home, this is in South Africa, when I got back home to the States, I was reading through the Bodhisattva vows class I was about to take. And I realized I'd almost succumbed to studying and accepting Hinayana tradition that Mahayana doesn't agree with. So study it, put it into the context of your Mahayana studies. But if you find you're drifting more and more toward Hinayana, then that's what makes you a listener. A listener is someone who can teach the Dharma but doesn't practice it per se. Doesn't mean to make efforts in non-Buddhist teachings excessively to the point of detracting from Mahayana study. Now I have to deal with this myself because I enjoy writing the military history books I've written. So I have to make sure that I put it into perspective. Yes, I can write the books and write the articles I write, but I can't let it interfere with my practice. Oh, I have here a note about the story about the types of karma. I was going to write a compendium of the karmic, what do I call them? Consequences. So if you do this, this happens. You do that, that happens. And I started looking into it. And I realized it was going to be a waste of my time. For first of all, it's been done by many others. And second of all, it would be from my perspective, and it'd be difficult to write it from the perspective of here it is, here's the consequence, without imbuing it with some of my feelings. So instead, I put together the book of lists, which I'm happy to report I finished getting the German part of it correct. So now the book of lists website for we have German, Vietnamese, Chinese, Spanish, German, English, Russian. So that's 7 languages for the book of lists. Yay. Make efforts to non-Buddhist teaching. Lord Maitreya says to never reject a teaching outright. You don't have to go to all the teachings, but you shouldn't say, I'm not going because they bore me or something. Number 31, to give up the Hinayana. The root vow was to say Lord Buddha did not teach it. Here we are saying that you can discount it by any of the 4 ways by saying this particular part of the subject isn't correct, this isn't written so well, the author isn't so good, this isn't much benefit for all living beings. Understand if you do not think a teaching is good, perhaps it's because you simply do not understand it. Ken Rinpoche gave an analogy that all the Buddhist scriptures is like a ball of honey. No matter where you bite it, it's incredibly sweet. I have trouble conceiving of a ball of honey. Honey is liquid. So I say a ball of brown sugar, compressed brown sugar. Now, I like brown sugar. I really like brown sugar. We don't have it in the house because I really like brown sugar. It's like not having corn chips or potato chips. I think I'm going to go get myself. I'm going to go to the store and get some corn chips. I'm just going to. Well, I won't because my wife will say no, but anyway. Oh, praising yourself or criticizing others. This vow is broken out of the desire for fame or fortune. Praising yourself or criticizing others. I get embarrassed when someone praises me. I'm just doing what I think is right. So when I had one student that got very annoyed at me at Diamond Mountain because she would thank me for something I did, and would say, oh, it's just my job. No need to thank me. She said, for once, would you just say you're welcome? So I try and do that a little more often. Number 33, not going to the Dharma talk out of laziness or pride. You don't break it if you're sick or unable, you're unaware of the class, already a master of the subject. You're in deep retreat, or it might upset your regular Dharma teacher. Focusing on number 34, focusing on the vessel, not the letters. This is you put down a Dharma teacher by not seeing them as a Buddha, to speak badly about them or be more interested in the presentation than the content? Presentation or content? Well, for example, when I do PowerPoint presentations, I tend to, if you put a PowerPoint presentation with 10 lines of detail on it up and start talking about it, whoever's in the audience is reading the 10 items on the slide. They're not listening to you. So I fly them in. I click and up comes A, and I talk about A, then click and up comes B, and I talk about B. And that way the student or the audience is focusing on the individual items I wanted to emphasize, not reading the entire slide and not listening to me. And the other thing I do is I try and make it the slides not very wordy. A lot of times that's not possible, but so I want my students, the audience, to be focusing on what I'm saying, not what I've written down. So this would be a matter of if I was in the audience and they projected all 10 items at once, this would be a matter of my focusing on the presentation rather than the content. And that's bad because I'm not getting the point across that this person's trying to give me. So find yourself, when you come to a teaching, be it online or in person, go to a teaching or come to class with the idea you're going to learn something new, or you're going to find out whether you've retained what is being taught. Okay. So your meditation from now till Thursday is review the 17 through 34 secondary offenses. I think I asked all of you to come up with a white lie. So let's start with Svetlana. You're in the upper left corner now. Do you have a white lie that you can think about that you encountered?
Hello, dear Venerable. Yes, I was thinking about it, and could it be a white lie which are in our thoughts, for example, about ethical principles? Like I could tell myself that it's okay to come 15, 20 minutes later, but actually it was a white lie, and it was not okay, but I was uh, like proof my laziness or something. So I tried today to come earlier, and it was like 1 minute past the hour, and the feeling was different. So I think it could be white lie when in thoughts we are telling ourselves that it's okay doing something, but actually it is against some ethical principles.
Yeah, it's rationalization. Good. So that brings up, if you want to get my lovely wife mad, show up late to class. Show up after. If class starts at 10, it starts at 10. It doesn't start at 10:05, it starts at 10. I'm a little more lenient on that, but as a sign of respect to a teacher, show up on time. Or show up lean into the picture and show that you're still here. Okay, who's got Anna? Do you have an example of a white lie?
Yes, I found out that I have pretty much small situations with white lie in my life. For example, with my mom, when I don't want to say something for her, I'm afraid that she will be upset or something like this, and I just not say all true moments of some situations, or maybe even tell some good points and not tell some bad points, something like this. And also when I go to an interview about my possible future job, I want to show me in better way. I want to not lie. It's really white lie because I want just to show white side and not to show black side.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I really started to see white lie more in my life and point at it and work with it. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad. That was the whole point. Katya.
Well, one example is when my dad repeats something that he already said it, and some people tell him like, "You already say that," and I saw his face like a sad face, and I say like, "Oh no, no, you said another thing. You can repeat it." So sometimes I do that.
Well, that's a really good example, Katya. I thank you for bringing that up because I'm at the point in my life where I'm starting to do that and repeat stuff. And and I had an uncle that said he'd say, "I have a joke. If you've heard this before, too bad. I like it. I'm going to tell it again." And I thought that was a pretty clever way of addressing it. But so in that, you see your father's face drop. He gets sad. So you say a white lie, and your motivation is good, but it's still a lie. So I think in that context or situation, you simply say, "Dad, I like that story. Please tell it again." Now you have to like the story for it not to be another white lie, but in most white lies, you can turn the lie around and make it not be a lie, and that's a talent that I think all of us could work hard on. Okay, Katrina, do you have a white lie you can share?
Света, can you help me? Да, у меня бывает похожая
Yes, I
ситуация,
have
как
some
те,
similar
про
cases,
которые говорила
as
Анна,
it
когда
was mentioned
мне
by
задают какой-то
Anna,
вопрос,
when
и
someone is
он не
asking
очень
me,
удобный,
and
и
which is
я
not comfortable
боюсь,
question, and I
мне
am afraid
неудобно
that
сказать
it
все
is not
детали, либо
comfortable
я
for me
боюсь,
to
что
tell all
человек
details,
раскроет,
or I'm
моя
afraid that the
мама тоже,
person will be
и
upset,
я
like
как
my
бы
mom
не
as
полностью
well.
отвечаю.
And
То есть
so I'm
картинка в моем
replying
уме, она
not
отличается
completely. So
от
image
той
in my
картинки,
mind is
которую
different from
получает
the
человек,
image
когда я
that
ему
the other person is
полностью
receiving
отвечаю на
when
вопрос.
I'm replying him not in a
Бывает,
complete way to his
я
question.
поймала себя на том,
It
что, например,
happens
когда
that
я делаю
I caught
аналитическую
myself when I
медитацию,
am doing analytical meditations.
там промежутки времени,
There are
буквально
some
по 5
time
минут, и
spans
иногда даже
for
я как бы
minutes, and sometimes I not precise to catch them. But as a whole, actually, it should be done that I should do it not less than 15 minutes. I should do on this topic. So maybe it's not so important if I shift it. But it actually, from the other side, it's not total truth. And sometimes in those 15 minutes, I am distracted to other thoughts. And I agree that it is so important to observe such small details and catch yourself.
That's the whole point of my asking the question of you all, to see just how prevalent it is. They're tiny little white lies, but they're lies. And it's going to come back in a larger form because karma multiplies. So really, I think it's really important. But I've talked to some people who go, well, white lie, your motivation. I don't use the term motivation very often, or skillful means, because it's too easy to use that as an excuse. Okay, Daria, what do you have to share about white lies in your life?
Yeah, it's my opinion. Um, sorry. We haven't a white light because all light lead to another light. It's and we light our teacher and I can see, for example, when I lie a little light for my mother or myself, I saw when the war start, I saw a lot of lie, and I say why, and okay, for example, say my mother come to my room and say, "Are you go to bed?" I say, "Yeah, 5 seconds, okay," and I go 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. My mother come. You sleep? Yeah. 5 seconds. Okay. It's. I think it's not a white light. It's a lie. For me, it's lie.
No, that's a very good point. It's a lie. It's not true. And that will possibly, not possibly, will come back to bite you in another way. So now thank you for bringing that example up, because my wife gets done teaching, she pokes her head in my room, and I say, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes could be 15. So what I'm doing now, what I'm trying to do now is stop what I'm doing and go do what she wants to do. No matter how interested I am in what I'm doing, stop and go take a walk with her. Trouble is, she wants to take a walk when it's still warm, and I want to take a walk in the evening when it's cooler. But to stop the promulgation of a lie, like you're saying, Daria, my solution has to either be start a timer and after 5 minutes go, or not have the situation even develop by stopping what I'm doing and go with her. So thank you. That's a very relevant example for me. Okay, Mike, you're up.
All right, I had one of these yesterday. Some guy hit me up, a guy that I used to work with for piano shows, and he texted me and he's like, "Oh, do you have any availability tonight? Like I need somebody to cover one of my shows, like to cover this piano gig."
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't want to do it because like I didn't know like what the hours were and like how much money it was. So I was about to say, like I was about to lie and go, oh no, like, but I can ask around to see if anyone wants to do it in order for him to give me that information without me having to commit to the gig. Does it make sense? Like
Yeah.
it's like instead of me saying like, oh, I'm not sure like if I want to do it or not, like what's the hours, what's the pay? I would say like, oh, like I'm busy, but maybe one of my friends wants to do it. So tell me the hours and the pay.
Yeah.
So it's like avoiding this, like it's a lie to avoid like me saying that I don't want to work the gig, but I want to know the information
Yeah.
about the specifics of the gig. So if they're good enough, I can go, oh, maybe I
Yeah.
can free up my own time.
Right.
So it's like this like manipulative little, but it's like so small and subtle, but it's like still me trying to get what I want out of the situation without having to like commit, like without having to
Right.
commit to something or to own like the fact that I'm only interested if the deal's good enough. Like,
Right. Yeah.
which is,
And
it's work. So there's also that element too. But
yeah, but
yeah,
it's interesting because that could come back to ripen in the future with someone being wishy-washy with you and when it's very important to you. So that's a great example of yeah, that's a great example. Excellent. Tatiana, do you have an example you can share with us?
Мгм. Добрый вечер.
Good evening.
Ну, наверное, тоже вот эти моменты,
Maybe
когда
also such
говоришь
moments
через
when
пару
you are telling
секунд,
that just a couple of seconds
а сам уходишь на 10
and
минут.
then you are going away for 10 minutes.
My wife knows when I say 5 minutes, it's is it David 5 minutes, Samadhi 5 minutes, or actually 5 minutes? So what I need to do is, and I really thank you, Daria. I had not put in the context that that's a common white lie that I tell almost every day. And it's a lie, and I need to take care of doing that. So that's what I like. I like having students that teach me as well as I teach them. My hat's off to all of you. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Okay, well, let's dedicate class. What dedication do I want to use? Through this merit, may we soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, so that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow, and may that born have no decline but increase forevermore. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma type of the Buddhas, always increase. Thank you for the opportunity to teach this wonderful material. And thank you for your examples on white lies. Help be very helpful for me. I really appreciate it. Because by saying a white lie to my wife, a powerful karmic object in my life, that's really bad. Although she knows what I mean. So does that make it okay if she knows what I mean? No, I'm still not being truthful. Okay. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you on Thursday. And that'll be class 9. Then there's 10, then there's a review. Golly, we're getting, and Mike's going to do his homework. Touche. Okay.
Thank God this one's already done.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
Мгм.